The courtroom was just another stage, the defendant just another face. Judge Richard Calloway had seen hundreds of cases like this. Young, reckless, and overconfident defendants who thought they could outsmart the system. He had no patience for them. So when they dragged Jamal Carter into his courtroom, accused of financial fraud, Calloway barely looked up. Another statistic, another lost case. But then something unexpected happened. Jamal didn't cower. He didn't beg. Instead, he raised his chin and did something no one saw coming. He challenged the court itself. Hello, dear viewer. Thank you for joining us. If this story intrigues you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, so you never miss another thrilling and inspiring courtroom drama. Tell us, have you ever seen intelligence turn the tables in an impossible situation? Comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Now let's dive into this unforgettable date. Jamal Carter never expected his life to change in a single afternoon. One moment, he was just another senior at Howard University, sitting in the campus library, poring over complex mathematical models. The next, he was being dragged out in handcuffs, accused of a crime so outrageous it barely seemed real. The two uniformed officers who entered the library didn't cause much of a stir at first. Howard wasn't unfamiliar with police presence. It was just a fact of life for many students growing up in neighborhoods like Jamal's. But when they stopped at his table, when their shadows stretched across his open notebook filled with differential equations, everything changed. Jamal Carter? One officer asked, his voice steady, professional. Jamal looked up, puzzled. Yeah? You need to come with us. Students nearby turned their heads, some whispering. Jamal's mind raced. This had to be a mistake. He had never been in trouble with the law, never even had a parking ticket. What's this about? He asked, keeping his voice calm. The officer's gaze remained neutral, but his partner stepped forward, pulling out a set of handcuffs. You're under arrest for financial fraud and conspiracy to commit embezzlement. Laughter rippled through the library. Some students thought it was a prank. Jamal himself almost laughed. Financial fraud? Embezzlement? The absurdity of it was overwhelming. He was a math major, not some Wall Street banker skimming millions off hedge funds. Sir, there's been some mistake. Turn around, the officer interrupted. Hands behind your back. The cold steel of the cuffs locked around his wrists and reality set in. This wasn't a joke. As they led him out, Jamal's heart pounded. He heard whispers, saw people filming, his professors, his classmates. They were all watching. The brilliant young man from Southeast DC, the kid who had defied the odds, was being paraded through campus like a criminal. The news spread fast. By the time they reached the station, local reporters were already outside, shouting questions. Cameras flashed as he was shoved into the precinct. Inside, the interrogation room was bleak. Grey walls, a metal table, a single chair. They left him there for what felt like hours. Jamal's mind raced, dissecting every possible scenario. Who had set him up? What evidence did they have? Finally, the door swung open and a man in a cheap suit entered, carrying a folder. He was older, maybe late 40s, with tired eyes that suggested he had long given up on believing in his clients. Mr. Carter? The man said, taking a seat across from him. I'm Robert Ellis, your public defender. Jamal exhaled. A lawyer. Good. This meant they had to start making sense of this mess. There's been a mistake, Jamal said immediately. I didn't do anything. Ellis sighed and pulled out a sheet of paper. The state disagrees. You've been charged with fraud related to a large-scale embezzlement scheme involving Titan Corp. Jamal frowned. Titan Corp? I don't even work for them, according to their records. You do, Ellis said, sliding the paper toward him. Jamal scanned the document. It was an employment record listing him as a financial analyst for Titan Corp. Salary, direct deposit, even emails attached to his
name? This is fake, he said, his voice rising. I never worked for them. I never even applied. Ellis remained unmoved. That may be true, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Your name is linked to transactions that diverted funds, millions
of dollars, into offshore accounts. Jamal shook his head. I don't even have a bank account overseas. Ellis leaned back, rubbing his temples. Look, kid, I see cases like this every day. Sometimes innocent people get caught up in things they don't understand. The best thing you can do is take a plea deal. Jamal's stomach twisted. A plea deal? You want me to admit to something I didn't do? If you fight this in court, you could be looking at 20 years in federal prison, Ellis said bluntly. With a plea, you might get 5, maybe less with good behavior. Jamal clenched his fists. This wasn't justice. This wasn't logic. He had spent his entire life solving problems, breaking down equations to find the truth. And now they expected him to accept a lie? No, he said firmly. I won't plead guilty. Ellis gave him a tired look. Kid, I admire the confidence, but this isn't a math problem. This is the real world. Jamal met his gaze. Exactly. And in the real world, math doesn't lie. If there's an error in Titan Corp's financials, I'll find it. Ellis
let out a dry chuckle. And how exactly do you plan to do that? I'll defend myself.
For the first time, Ellis looked genuinely surprised. You want to be your own lawyer? Jamal nodded. I understand numbers better than anyone in that courtroom. And if they think they can pin this on me, they're going to have to outthink me. Ellis shook his head. Kid, the legal system isn't built for guys like you to win. Jamal sat back, his mind already working. Then I guess I'll have to break the system. Jamal Carter had heard of Judge Richard Calloway long before he set foot in the courtroom. A man notorious for his sharp tongue and rigid views, Calloway had a reputation that echoed through Washington, D.C.'s legal circles. He was a hardliner, a no-nonsense judge who took pride in putting young criminals in their place. His rulings were swift, his patience thin, and his disdain for defendants was legendary. As Jamal sat in the holding cell waiting for his first court appearance, the weight of reality pressed down on him. The initial shock of his arrest had worn off, replaced by a growing determination. If the system was rigged against him, he would have to be smarter, sharper, relentless. The sound of metal bars scraping open jolted him back to the present. Oh, bailiff stepped inside. Carter, he called. Time to go. Jamal rose, adjusting his orange jumpsuit. He'd seen enough courtroom dramas to know this was where many cases were lost before they even began. Perception mattered. He needed to look confident, composed, even as a defendant in shackles. The walk to the courtroom was long, the fluorescent lights above buzzing faintly. As he entered, he saw the gallery packed. Reporters, students, even some of his professors from Howard University. The media had jumped on his case with a vengeance. Prodigy turned fraudster, one headline had read. Another, math genius or criminal mastermind, but none of that mattered now. The real battle was about to begin. At the judge's bench sat Richard Calloway, exactly as imposing as Jamal had imagined. He was in his late 60s, his face weathered by years of passing judgment. A permanent scowl rested on his lips, and his deep-set eyes scanned the room like a predator assessing its prey. Docket number 2025-184, the clerk announced. The State of Maryland versus Jamal Carter. Charges: financial fraud, conspiracy to commit, embezzlement, Calloway leaned forward, his voice a gravelly mix of boredom and irritation.